tank. He's good at setting traps. Has crazy power that he believes in. He has a great chin too because he's a guy. He'll let you get out punches, and he'll still be coming at you. And then once he catches you, it's a wrap.
All-time greats. Crawford's one of the best switch hitters, I think, since Marvin Hagler, and one of the most skillful boxers alive.
He has very good skills. He's one of my favorite boxers. He able to win this fight.
Errol Spence found himself genuinely impressed after seeing the insane level of preparation Terence Crawford is putting in for the Canelo matchup. Having gone to war with him in the ring, Spence already knew Crawford had top-tier IQ and world-class skills, but this latest training footage still caught him off guard. The speed, the accuracy, the footwork, it all looked unreal. Crawford moved like a controlled beast, explosive and locked in from the first step to the last. If this is the version of Crawford who shows up on fight night, Canelo absolutely cannot afford to take him lightly. When Terence Crawford looked back on his fight with Errol Spence, you could sense the mutual respect between two high-level champions. Crawford, always known for his calm, calculated approach, explained how he breaks opponents down layer by layer before unleashing those brutal, well-timed combinations that finish the job.
How hard does Spence hit?
He didn't hit that hard.
Well, he never caught you that clean. That was probably the best shot he landed.
No, he caught me a couple of times, but I was surprised at how hard he didn't hit.
Really?
Given that everybody say, oh, he's a big puncher, he's this. I think he's just a volume puncher. I think he just wears opponents down, just wear them down. I don't think, he has a one-punch knockout. He has power, but it's not like, boom, sleep. I think it's like, bam, oh, boom, 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 boom. And then he just wear you down.
Right, yeah. That is a difference, right?
Because if you look at his career, you never seen him knock nobody out with one punch. You never see him, dropping nobody with one punch. You always see him wearing them down. That's why he goes so hard to the body, because he want to wear you down. Then once you get tired and once your body start weakening, everything started weakening, and those little punches that wasn't hurting start hurting.
Former world champion and boxing analyst Chris Algieri added an interesting angle when comparing Crawford to Canelo Alvarez. Algieri noted that Crawford has a track record of controlling nearly every fight he's been in, rarely allowing opponents to dictate the pace. Canelo, meanwhile, has had moments where he's been pushed back and outmaneuvered, what insiders call getting bossed around. A clear example was his defeat against Dimitri Bivol, where Bivol's size, jab, and discipline kept Canelo uncomfortable all night. Algieri's take reinforces the idea that even though Crawford is climbing up in weight, his style, built on command, adaptability, and sharp technique, is exactly the type that tends to trouble fighters like Canelo.
And Terence Crawford, who do you think can be the boss that night? When you talk about these two guys, you talk about two guys, number one, you can't boss me around.
Yep.
Two guys, you can't even look at me a certain way without me feeling some type of way. These guys now have set their sights on one another. Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, we know the weight difference, but we've seen Crawford, looks like he's coming up slowly to that weight class and kind of acclimating himself in real time. How do you see that fight playing out?
We're still pretty far away from that fight, and I'm going to hold my complete analytics on that, but I'll tell you this.
Contrast and compare, maybe not a pick.
But I'll tell you this. I've seen Canelo pushed around. I've never seen Terence pushed around. So if we're talking about who's going to be the boss, I've never seen anyone boss Terence Crawford. I've seen Canelo get bossed. So that is just psychologically when you think about that, and this is a fight where I flip-flop on both guys because there's so many good points. Yeah, but he's 168. Yeah, but it's Terence Crawford. He's undefeated. Well, yeah, no, this guy's beating this, but stylistic. Even he hits him on the arm. There's so many different things you can talk about. But from a psychological standpoint, who's fresher, who's meaner, who wants it more? You know, that's going to come into play.
As a boxing fan, how much fun is it to see those two attitudes come together? It's kind of like the unstoppable force versus the immovable object getting ready to collide.
I've worked a lot of Canelo fights, and Canelo fight weeks are great. He plays to the crowd really well. His fans are awesome. I'm thinking about the Caleb Plant situation. I'm thinking about the Billy's Joe Saunders situation. When he gets that in his head that he's got an extra chip, he becomes a really dangerous man.
Seasoned commentator Max Kellerman offered a more measured breakdown, saying both Crawford and Canelo bring distinct advantages, but Crawford might have the slight edge based on recent form and overall skill. Kellerman pointed to Crawford's timing, his ability to switch stances seamlessly, and his knockout power, all of which have hit new heights in recent years. Canelo, while still an elite fighter, has shown hints of slowing down, especially in his mobility and offensive urgency. At the same time, Kellerman acknowledged that Canelo's natural size could play a major role during inside exchanges. Still, when he tallied up the complete package, speed, accuracy, defense, and versatility, Kellerman leaned toward Crawford as the sharper and more polished fighter at this moment.
But overall, I have to say Crawford. If you go down the list and ask me about tactical advantages, most of them are Crawford. What Canelo has is size, and as a result, physical strength and punching power. Canelo also has a great chin. But in terms of if you want to go skill for skill, especially the recent version of Canelo, who's had to turn into a seek and destroy guy, who had to learn as his career went on to cut off the ring and not just follow guys around. Like Lara, Trout, Floyd, he followed those guys around. He had trouble because he's really a natural counterpuncher who wants you to come to him. But in recent years at super middleweight, he's gotten really good at cutting off the ring. Again, last fight notwithstanding. So as an overall suite of skills, recent vintage, it's been Crawford. But Canelo also is skilled and has a larger skeleton than Crawford. No matter what they weigh, Canelo's the bigger guy.
Yeah. You briefly mentioned Canelo's power, so who I would assume Canelo has the
You'd have to think, unless Crawford was on a knockout streak until he moved up to junior middleweight and then failed to stop Madrimov. So, and Canelo, though he has not stopped anyone in a while, we've seen he's a real puncher at 68.
As far as speed, who has a better speed?
You would imagine Crawford, given the fact that he is the naturally smaller fighter.
The dynamics of this super fight are genuinely intriguing. Crawford is moving into new territory by stepping up in weight, and that always raises questions about speed and endurance. Meanwhile, Canelo, though experienced at these heavier divisions, hasn't been the same relentless powerhouse he used to be. His recent performances show fewer knockouts and a more measured approach, unlike the pressure-heavy style of his earlier years. This creates an interesting balance. Crawford has to deal with a size disadvantage, but Canelo's own decline in certain areas may narrow the gap. If Crawford shows up with his trademark footwork, high fight IQ, and deep gas tank, he absolutely has a legitimate path to victory.
For Canelo, obviously at 168, he has been a bit of the smaller man at that weight class. And in the last couple of years has had trouble finishing opponents and getting guys out of there like he would have at 160 or 154. So you have a bit of a duality there. Both guys coming into this fight in the, let's say, twilight of their careers, or maybe twilight of their primes, however you want to look at it. Canelo is going to be, I think, 35. Terence is 38. So you have a similar situation, different paths, and different struggles for both fighters. But when you look at who has to do more in this fight, it's clearly Terence Crawford, as far as what he's giving up and sacrificing to win this third undisputed championship and to try to beat Canelo, who has only been beat twice in his career, one of which was Floyd Mayweather being slick and tagging Canelo with counter punches when Canelo missed, being the smaller, lighter fighter and up there in age that was still able to take advantage of the youth and experience of Canelo Alvarez, but also just being a defensive maestro and able to counter off of that. Floyd is one of one. And then you have Dimitri Bivol, who was the bigger fighter, and the things that Canelo does very well didn't really hurt him too bad, right? The things that had carried Canelo up in division was his power and the ability to break an opponent down, maybe not stopping them in the early to mid part of fight.
Rising prospect Abdullah Mason didn't hesitate to express his belief in Crawford, predicting not just a win, but a result that will shock a lot of fans. He pointed out that Crawford's punching power is constantly overlooked, even though it often shows up when people least expect it. Most observers assume Canelo is the naturally stronger fighter because of his size. Mason flipped that narrative, arguing that Crawford's precision, timing, and ability to create power from angles could end up being even more damaging. If Crawford lands cleanly and consistently, especially as the fight wears on, Mason's bold prediction might not be far-fetched at all.